Hey there, what's happening? Welcome into the show. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report. I'm Chase Sr. Thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day and clicking on this video. So many talented people out there who are content creators and media members who cover the Niners, and obviously the content space for the NFL is very crowded and competitive. So anytime you decide to hang out here with me, I do appreciate that. A programming reminder, by the way, we will be live once again for this Week 11 tilt NFC West rivalry game between the Niners and the Seahawks. We'll be live for an hour and 5-minute pregame show beginning at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. So we'll talk about the game during the pregame show. During the game, live play-by-play, audience interaction, instant reaction. We'll be riding on the seesaw together because these Niners games are always stressful. We'll have Super Chat giveaways, a Venmo 50-50 race, and then after the game, a post-game show. It's the best place to experience a Niners game day outside of being at Levi's Stadium, so I hope to see some real ones there. Let's begin our mailbag with this question coming in from Matthew Short, a longtime real one here on the program. $5 Super Chat. Thank you, my man. Chase, would you extend George Kittle, and would you draft his replacement in the upcoming NFL draft? That's a really good question there. George Kittle last year was a first-team All-Pro. And I think he's the best all-around tight end in the NFL, and that's been the case over the last couple of years. Travis Kelce has declined a little bit, but Travis Kelce is used more as a slot receiver for that Chiefs offense, with Andy Reid calling the plays and designing the offense and Patrick Mahomes throwing him the football, whereas George Kittle is asked to do more. He's asked to block. He does it at a high level, and he's utilized as a pass catcher. And George Kittle can be the inline tight end. He can line up out of the slot. Great route runner. I think he's better at picking up yards after the catch. And this year, he's already surpassed his touchdown total from last year when he had 6 and was a first-team All-Pro. This year, he has 7, and he's already on pace for another 1,000-yard season. Of course, with George Kittle, he just turned 31 years old on October 9th. He isn't showing signs of decline. And at that tight end spot, you could play for a pretty long time. He is going to be a free agent in 2026. So there really is no rush to sign him to a contract extension. Unless you're trying to backload that deal and lower the cap hits for the next couple of years. In 2024, he has a cap hit at 12.2. In 2025, 21.7. So do you let him play out 2025 and then you revisit that? You're probably asking this question because you don't want to think about George Kittle being on an expiring deal next year. It'd be weird to envision the Niners organization not having number 85. That's a player who's the heartbeat of this team, or at least one of them, the heartbeat of the offense for sure. A tremendous leader, a guy who always rallies his teammates, injects some positivity. I love his spirit. I love what he's about. He loves the game of football. And do you give him a contract extension? You know, maybe you flirt that possibility given the current financial status of this organization. Do you let that last year play out? You could also do that too. But certainly have to start thinking about that. And over the last couple of years, I've said, you know, you should probably start to think about drafting his future replacement, or at least get better at the backup tight end spot. I like Jared Wiley coming out of TCU. The Niners didn't draft him. And Eric Saubert, he's a veteran journeyman for a reason. He's really just a blocker, and this year he's been penalized a lot. I'm not a believer in Braden Willis. Mason Pline, a former basketball player, he's a rookie on the practice squad. He's an unknown commodity. I think good businesses always plan ahead, and I think the Niners should probably do that during this upcoming 2025 NFL draft. Wet Noodle 187, $5 Super Chat here. Thank you, my man. Another longtime viewer of the show. Who is your defensive MVP? That is a great question. Couple of names come to mind. Fred Warner is having a defensive player of the year type of season, so he would probably be my pick. And just like George Kittle is the heartbeat of this team, so too is Fred Warner. They both possess leadership skills. They both have this spirit that is really contagious. They both play the way that you want anybody to play the game of football. Their approach to life in football is so noticeable too. And it's something that everybody should model, regardless of what occupation or profession that you're in. I think if the Niners didn't have Fred Warner, who, by the way, has missed one game in his entire career, which is insane, they would be screwed without Fred Warner. Just because of how much he does against the run, against the pass, controlling that second level and the entire middle area of the field. He can cover wide receivers. He can cover tight ends. He can cover running backs. He can chase down quarterbacks. He's unique. He's one of one. If you want to go co-MVP, it would be Deommodore Lenoir. Deommodore Lenoir, who this week signed a 5-year, $92 million contract extension, $18.4 million in average annual value. That makes him the 12th highest paid corner in the NFL. He's given up 4 touchdowns in coverage in his career. He's in year 4, has not given up a touchdown in coverage this season. And whatever the Niners ask of him, if he needs to play the slot, nickel, he can do that. If he needs to play outside, he can do that. And he can cover all types of different prototypes at that wide receiver spot. He has been incredible this year. 2 interceptions, one of Dak Prescott, one of Patrick Mahomes. So I'd go Fred Warner, but if we want to go co-MVPs, it's Fred Warner, Deommodore Lenoir. And what's the constant between both of those players? Every week they bring it. Every week they fly around and play with swagger and physicality. I love watching 54. I love watching number 2. And Nick Bosa's having a really good year. Don't always judge an edge rusher season by sacks. I kind of look at sacks sometimes as wins and losses for a pitcher. Doesn't tell the full story. ERA tells the full story. Pressures, Nick Bosa's compiled a lot of those. He's been really good. His Pro Football Focus numbers are tremendous. So in an order, Fred Warner, Deommodore Lenoir, Nick Bosa. If you want to go co-MVP, Warner, Demo, and then Bosa comes in after those guys. Al with the $5 super chat. Malik Mustafa for Rookie of the Year. Let's talk about this rookie class. And let's just talk about what they did against the Buccaneers, right? Ricky Pearsall, 46-yard touchdown in which he picked up 30 yards of yak to break that scoreless tie. The stutter step on Antoine Winfield, the highest paid safety in the game, in order to get to the pylon, terrific play. Then he caught 2 balls of Purdy's 4 completions on the game-winning drive. Jawan Jennings caught the other 2. And you see the ability for Ricky Pearsall. He ran a 4.4 40-yard dash, in the pre-draft process. I wanted to see how that speed translated to the NFL level. We saw the long speed on that touchdown. How about the 39-yard end around against the Dallas Cowboys, the jet sweep, in which he was able to show patience, let the block set up, and then boom, he was shot out of a cannon. So I like him a lot. Renardo Green, 2nd-round pick. 3rd highest graded corner in the NFL this year. In his first start against Tampa Bay, him and Demo on the outside, they were great. And with that Deommodore Lenoir contract extension, I think Charvarius Ward plays elsewhere in 2025, and Green, Lenoir are your starting outside corners. Dominic Pooney has not given up a sack on 350 pass blocking snaps, and he's been one of the best run blocking offensive guards in football. Isaac Rendo has popped. Jacob Cowing, he has some ability. Malik Mustafa, he's been the starting safety for this team. He plays like a bat out of hell. So is he the Rookie of the Year? I don't think so, but he's been valuable for a Niners draft class, which has been crushing it here this year and all playing critical roles. Our sponsor for today, our friends at Prize Picks. Daily Fantasy Sports made easy, the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made Daily Fantasy Sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. And it's pretty incredible how you can win 100 times your money on Prize Picks. It's the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. The only real money daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy so that your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. Right now, if you sign up by going to prizepicks.com/CLNS, you get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Our selections for Niners Seahawks on Sunday. Brock Purdy, more than 263.5 passing yards. Christian McCaffrey, more than 77.5 rushing yards. Geno Smith, more than 14.5 rushing yards. Run your game with Prize Picks. prizepicks.com/CLNS. We'll put that link down below in the comment section and attached to the pinned comment of today's San Francisco 49ers report. How about this $100 super chat coming in from Sean? For those of you watching this mailbag after the fact, we are live right now. Sean, I will celebrate this super chat even more so than giving you a San Francisco once we wrap up with this segment. Thank you so much for this monster donation. Really appreciate that. And Sean says the Super Bowl window closed last year. The 49ers might make the playoffs this year, and including coaching at all levels. How would you rebuild this team to win the Super Bowl starting this offseason and in the next 5 years? Okay, so a lot to get to here. I don't think the Niners Super Bowl window has closed. Why is that? You still have a really good offensive mind in Kyle Shanahan. This is a Niners team that is second in yards per game offensively. They're 28th in red zone touchdown efficiency. And so if they can start capitalizing in the red zone, they're going to be averaging more than 30 points per game. And that is not an offense that is struggling defensively. They have made some strides of late. And I think we've all seen what this Niners team is capable of being. And let me ask you this. If the Niners were to meet up with the Detroit Lions, the number 1 seed in the NFC, do you think San Francisco could win? I think so. I think the Lions actually are built very much like the Niners. They're like a younger version of the Niners with the physicality that they have and the talent that they have. The number 2 seed in the NFC right now, the Philadelphia Eagles. That's going into Thursday Night Football against the Commanders. Niners, Eagles? I could easily see Philadelphia winning that game. The 3 seed, the Atlanta Falcons. Niners are better than Atlanta. The 4 seed, Arizona. Big game coming up in Week 18. The 5 seed, Minnesota Vikings. The 6 seed is... Who's the 6 seed right now? The 7 seed is the Green Bay Packers. The 6 seed is the Washington Commanders. And so I think the Niners stack up very well against any team in the NFC. Can they beat Kansas City? They have that lack of mental confidence, which really concerns me. And I think that when you look at this roster, there's still plenty of talent on it. What's so massive is what I talked about earlier. This rookie draft class. This rookie draft class could really help the Niners continue to be a sustainable winner. And this is my theory, right? How do you become a sustainable winner in the NFL? How do you win consistently? You replenish the cupboard of talent and you hit on these draft picks. Because those players, if they can be contributors, are cost-controlled assets for 4 or 5 years. That is huge. And so I don't think the Niners need to rebuild. If they make it into the playoffs, they lose early. If they don't make it into the playoffs, I don't think it's a rebuild. I think it's more of a retooling. How can the Niners get better? You're good at left tackle with Trent Williams. Do you bring back Aaron Banks? Maybe. I think you draft a center. You draft a right tackle. Dominic Pooney has been one of the top right guards in the NFL. If you have a better offensive line, this Niners team is capable of so much. You're good at quarterback. I'm a believer in Brock Purdy. You're good at running back. You're good at wide receiver. You need another edge rusher, probably another defensive tackle. We'll see what happens with Dre Greenlaw when he comes back. But you probably need a third linebacker. You're going to need some corner depth because I think Charvarius Ward moves on. You'll have Renardo Green, Diamador Lenore. You're good there. Malik Mustafa and Jair Brown at safety. I think you're good there. You let Talanoa Hufanga walk because he could get paid by somebody else based upon his pedigree as being an all-pro. We'll see what happens with Nick Sorensen. Maybe you bring in a new DC. You bring back Robert Saleh. Maybe you bring in another set of eyes on the offensive side of the football to have an offensive coordinator. Niners currently don't have one. Kyle Shanahan is the play caller. He'll always be the play caller. But do you bulk up the offensive staff a little bit? You need a backup tight end. But I still think this Niners roster is pretty damn good. I don't think you need to rebuild. I will say this division could come down to Week 18. Niners, Cardinals, winner gets into the playoffs and wins the division. Loser doesn't make the playoffs. Because the second place team in the NFC North is going to make it, either the Lions, Vikings, or Packers. And I think the Lions, Vikings, and Packers make it. And then the other team that makes it into the playoffs, second place team in the NFC East, either the Eagles or the Commanders. So Niners going to have to finish the season out hot. Not a lot of wiggle room. Matthew Short, Chase, would you draft right tackle or a defensive end in the first round of the draft? So funny that you asked that, because I think what the Niners have to do in the first round next year, draft the right tackle. If you draft a right tackle and you hit on that pick like you hit on Dominic Pooney, you're going to go from having one of the worst offensive lines in football to one of the best. Trent Williams still playing well. We'll see if they retain Aaron Banks. I think you need a new center. Jake Brendel, just not good enough in my opinion. Dominic Pooney's a stud. Colton McKivitz is a good backup swing tackle. You draft a legitimate starter at that right tackle spot, you're in a fantastic spot. And I do think it's smart to build your team in the trenches. My rules for building a football team, you got to find your quarterback, you have to protect the quarterback, and you have to get after the quarterback. And so I'm looking at right tackle, I'm looking at defensive end, because Nick Bosa could use some help at that other edge spot. I think Leonard Floyd's been a little bit disappointing. Arabella Adam, longtime Real One. What impressed you so much about the win against Tampa and this team moving forward? You know what I liked is how the Niners defense buckled down in the red zone with the Bucs driving after multiple personal foul penalties. The game seemed to be snowballing on San Francisco, yet they were able to keep the Buccaneers out of the end zone, force a field goal, get the ball back to their offense, and Purdy and Jake Moody did the rest. Jake Moody, barely. Evan Anderson, how about the UDFA out of Florida Atlantic, who bursts through the line and makes that huge run stop during that red zone sequence there. That was very impressive. What else impressed me too, how the Niners came back, how they had to deal with adversity, and how Brock Purdy had to throw it 36 times and threw for 353 yards. John Wallace, is there any talk of Kyle Shanahan doing the three-headed monster to save Christian McCaffrey? I really wanted Kyle Shanahan to go about it in that way. They ran Christian McCaffrey into the ground last year. He led the NFL in touches, led the NFL in touchdowns, had more than 2,000 all-purpose yards. He was used so much as a running back and as a receiver, and in turn, I think that led to him being banged up to start this year because his body was feeling it. Now, the Niners used him in that way because they didn't have a lot of depth at the running back position in 2023 or in 2022 because Elijah Mitchell was always hurt. Elijah Mitchell, remember him? This year, though, they have legitimate backup running backs, Jordan Mason and Isaac Orendo. So I'd like to see them mix them in to save McCaffrey, but also I think they give the defense a different look and a different style, which I think is important. But McCaffrey's so good as a runner, as a pass catcher, and this is what's underrated, as a blocker, protecting Brock Purdy. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon, turn on your notifications. Therefore, anytime we go live or push out a show, you will be notified.